Welcome back, y'all. In this episode, this is really exciting. This is our first ever structure going on at our brand new river property. All right, so if y'all are interested in this type of barn kit, they're extremely popular in the South and they're starting to spread all across the country. We've literally gotten thousands of comments over the years about these type of metal truss ag barn kits right here. And y'all, this is my fourth one right now. We even built our house out of one of these, a huge 42 wide by 80 foot long pole barn, and another one identical to this that we call the chop shop. It's my firewood shed. So obviously I love these. They go up easy. You get nice wide spans with these metal trusses. You don't have to go custom order a bunch of wood trusses. And as you see, they deliver too. This company is hours away from me and can still deliver this no problem. I've even had huge kits brought in on semis before. All right, so real quick before we get it put up, if y'all are not familiar with these are angle iron steel trusses. They're all put together right here and they bolt together on the other end. This is for a 30 wide barn. You can get them smaller than this, wider than this, etc. But this bolts to this and you get a 4 to 12 pitch steel truss. These are really, really popular here. And you can see all these buckets that are welded on right here. This is where your 2x6 purlins, all those right there, go in, and that's what ultimately supports your tin. Now, I custom ordered mine with this big header right here. This is a 24-foot opening, so it takes away one of those 6x6 posts and gives you a nice wide opening in the back end with no posts in the way. And y'all, speaking of getting all these barn kits and this stuff custom ordered like this, I get this from a company called Backwoods Building in Chipley, Florida. They're several hours from me, but again, they can ship to you. This is now my fourth barn kit that I've got from these guys. Needless to say, I've been very happy with them over the years and have trusted their service. I have sent hundreds, if not thousands of y'all to them. And by the way, they noticed that, they appreciate it. I love supporting small American companies like this, and now they have officially become a sponsor of the channel. We are appreciative of that so much. So I'll put all their information down in the description if you want to contact them. Oh, and because we've sent them so much business, now if you'll tell them that you've seen and heard about them on our channel, they're offering a discount to our viewers. So that was pretty awesome of them to up and offer that. So because when you order directly from the company that makes everything, you can customize your stuff. I went with thicker metal. Typically they come with 29 gauge. I went to 26 gauge. Highly recommend that for, you know, hail damage and sticks and stuff falling on it. I like a thicker tin. Our ridge caps. Looks like there is some metal drip edge in there. That's a nice touch. Here's all our 2x6 purlins. All right, here's the other thing I really like about ordering from this company. Your post, y'all. This isn't your super light colored like that stuff from the big box store that's just gonna rot out on you in a few years. We're gonna be putting these in the ground, in concrete. We want them to last. These are true CCA heavy treated posts right here for agricultural use. But you see this dark green treatment that's in them? This is a super long lasting post. And the ones I even got done for my house, I called and had an even heavier treated post for my house because I really wanted them to last a long time. This alone is already something that people overlook. Don't go to the big box stores, buy them their 6x6s because you're getting a super light treated post. I really like this heavy treated stuff. I about forgot to mention these barn kits come with absolutely everything to install them other than the concrete. You've got all of your screws in here, all your bolts and hardware to bolt the trusses in, rebar, so you can stake through the bottom of the 6x6 post before you stake them basically in the concrete. All right, so stick around and watch this episode if you want to see this pole barn. I've hired a local contractor that puts these up specially because I have so much on my plate right now and I don't really have the equipment to be working with large sheets of metal by myself way up high. Plus they put them up so quick. Y'all, they're quoting me 2 days for a small crew to put up a 30 by 48 pole barn. Watch this. All right, so we're back. It's a couple of days later, and as you can see, we got crews pulling up and equipment everywhere. We're about to pop this barn up. So this is the same guy that I used to put up my last barn right here. His name's Tyler, and his company is Stoke Services. I highly recommend him. He actually buys the majority of his barn kits now from Backwoods as well. They did an excellent job the last time, so if you're in like South Georgia, North Florida, I'm gonna put his information down below. All right, so let's go ahead and explain what you just seen here, because this is a critical step to how these barns get their really high wind load ratings and can survive a lot of these hurricanes and stuff that we get down here. So 2 3/4 inch holes were just drilled off center. You don't want to put them really close together, cause any post splitting. And the reason we're doing that is because this kit come with provided rebar here. So we're going to slide one through this way, one through that way, out both sides, so you have 4 contact points. You're going to drill a large enough hole in the ground that when this sits down in there and we fill it with concrete, the concrete's going to set up around all of these pieces of rebar, and that's technically what locks your post in the concrete, so it can't pull up and out should you have any lift scenarios, would say tornadoes, hurricanes, things such as that. So I was just talking with Tyler here. He's built a bunch of these barns along the coast, actually building a pile of them now that's very popular for people with RVs. And this area just got hit back to back to back by 2 major hurricanes and 1 a little bit smaller hurricane. And the majority of the coastline here was destroyed. You've seen it all over the news and TV. Well, the majority of these barns that he put up are still standing down there. He says that's why his business is booming right now, because people seen that these barns survived these 140 plus mile an hour winds, and they made it. 1, because it's good quality kits. 2, because he's anchoring them in the ground properly.
Take that stake where you're at and pull it towards you. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
All right, so y'all see this technique here, pulling 2 tapes together. I'm learning something new today. I've always struggled with squaring up structures. So he's pulling 1 for the width, 1 for the diagonal measurements. That's how you rack a barn. You know, you got post here, post here, post here, post here. I call that racking whenever you kind of straighten something up. But doing your diagonal measurements from corner to corner where he's got this rebar is ultimately what tells you your building is nice and square. Then you go back and double check your width, your length, things such as that. But pulling 2 tapes and crisscrossing right there, it lets you know where to set your rebar down and start slowly squaring things up. All right, so now that these corners are roughly squared up to each other by checking multiple times with the tape, you know, we've checked diagonally to make sure we're squared. We've measured this way, and that way. That gets you real close. Then you use what's called batter boards to lay a string across and fine tune and really square things up. You'll run a string this way, string that way, and they crisscross, and that'll make your point for your corner post. Then you've got the string that you can measure down, spray paint a dot to drill for your next post, and continue to measure down. But I want to show y'all something. This is pretty cool right here. I have never seen this, and this is one of those things that I'm sitting here asking myself, why did I not invent something like this? So typically for batter boards, you cut 2x4s, you pound them in the ground. They're difficult to pound, you break them, you screw another 2x4 up here, then you screw a nail in or screw in somewhere, and you move your string down, wrap it around the screw. We've all seen those. That's a very common practice for construction. Well, look what this person has invented right here. Very simple design. Square tube, and a little runner that goes back and forth along with a pinch nail to where you wrap your string around. And then you can fine tune moving your string again, getting everything perfectly square. Tighten this up, and you're good to go. This is an absolutely brilliant design right here. And I'm wondering why I never thought of this. So for all you people that do construction or put up batter boards often, pay attention to this. Now you can simply drive some rebar down. It clamps right to the rebar. He said there used to be T-handles on here, but he's lost them over the years. Now I just use bolts. Rebar is super easy to drive in. Do it with a hammer. You don't have to pound those huge pieces of 2x4 in. And typically when you tear down your batter boards out of 2x4, you throw them away because, well, they're just tore all up. So 2 pieces of simple rebar to put in. This is a nice and easy setup. Clamp it to it, and you get awesome adjustability right here. This is a genius design. All right, so let me show you how these batter boards work here. You can see these guys just went back and really took their time with a tape measure going and adjusting. Say, this barn, by the way, is 30 by 48. So this string all the way to that string over there, 48 feet. 30 feet from here to that string. And then they're setting their post holes right here based off of the string that they have adjusted on these batter boards right here. Again, these are just really, really cool. So this particular barn has 12-foot post spacing. You can get them in 10 if you want even like higher wind load ratings, but 12 is the pretty common post spacing. That gives you adequate room to pull really wide trailers and things through. Plus it still meets a really high wind load rating. So you can see they just measure down, come 12 feet, right off this string, drop you another dot where the auger is gonna go. Do the same thing again. And now with these batter boards, you can remove the strings like they're doing right here, but because these are pinched and set where they belong, now you can pull your strings out, come in with the auger, drill your holes, quickly and precisely put the strings right back on the batter boards, and then set your post and actually touch your post to the strings. So this is a really efficient way to keep things perfectly in line and nice and squared up. All right, so we take a look at these holes. They're getting me nice and deep. We can get plenty of concrete around these poles to help weight everything down and keep it from pulling out.
Let him put that piece of rebar in. Dang, that was my favorite. I can put him in there, John. We got it. Hey man, these boards are just getting worse and worse with flutter. They just got a bad. I know. Just folded my skin back. Try that.
All right, so you can see what the guys are doing right now. They're getting the posts nice and squared up. This is where these batter boards and strings come in. Now you've got a reference line where to put your post, 2 different directions right here. And this allows you to make sure your post isn't twisted. So you can see them working the post in, actually using, this is something new I learned today. One of these boards you can put down in there and pry to move your post around until you get it perfectly plumb. You'll see them using a level there on either side to make sure that they get it straight up and down, along with barely touching the strings. And once you get that set, this is really for sure a 2-person job. Somebody can screw in. This is one of the purlins that's going to go on the roof, but we're just temporarily using them to set the concrete. So they'll screw that in. I really like the idea of using these stakes right here. They're called like concrete stakes. Instead of driving another 2x4 in, they've already got holes in them. You drive that in the ground, screw it in. Now that keeps the post from going this way. Come over and do the same thing on the other side. And then they're just using a board here in between to start tying to this post to keep it from falling either direction. And every single post is going to have a kick out going to the outside with another stake there. So this is a critical step. It takes quite a while to lay out your barn, but you've got to do that. You want your post perfectly in line. That's what your strings are going to do. You want the barn nice and square. That determines all your trusses fitting in between the posts correctly, your purlins, you know, being cut the correct length to 12 foot, for example, button up and working correctly, your 10 going on nice and square, You do not want to rush this step right here. All right, so the guys, now that the posts are nice and set, they're all putting concrete around the post, just knocking open a bunch of bags, pouring them in, but we need to wet set them or mix them in. And y'all, when it comes to setting post, this isn't a structural slab or anything like that. You can pre-mix your concrete before you pour it in the hole. I know a lot of people talk about that. I personally always just put the concrete in, wet it, set it. It hardens up just fine for setting around posts like this. All right, you can see what they're doing here. Even those big deep holes that you've seen filled slap up with several bags of concrete. That's going to add a lot of structural integrity, weight, and strength to these posts to keep them from bending in the wind. This is what gives you all those crazy high wind loads that these barns have. Now what these guys are wanting to do is wet all this in today so this can harden up overnight, which makes our post nice and sturdy. So when they're working on it tomorrow, you're not getting your post too far out of whack, so to speak. They want to make sure this sets up overnight and then come back and do everything tomorrow. So it's all nice and sturdy, locked in, because they've just spent hours kind of squaring everything up, making sure the posts are nice and plumb, and they don't want to knock none of that out. All right, so that machine alone right there is the reason they are going to be able to knock this out so unbelievably fast. If I was going to do this by myself or attempt it, you've got to rent one of those machines. So it's basically like a scissor man lift that we see all the time, except that one is, I believe, 4-wheel drive, and it's designed to be on somewhat uneven ground. Got big fat tires so it can ride over soft ground, things such as that. Having the right equipment to work safely at height is key for doing one of these buildings. So let me show you what they're doing here. Tyler come back out last night. We was here having a fire, and you see these reference lines right here. He set a laser up over there. It's the best way to do it, and shot a reference line on all these posts because a laser is naturally going to go level. It's designed to. So that line went to every single post out here because we're on very uneven ground. So if you want to find where to cut your post off correctly up top, you've got to have a good reference line. So he had a green line here. He made a mark. Green line on this post. Made a mark. I think you get the idea. So that reference line, it doesn't matter where you put it on the post, but now it gives you somewhere level that's exactly the same on all posts. They came out this morning, found my lowest post because I want to get the highest eave height possible. And now they've got a reference line that they can measure up and make a line where to cut the post off, all based off of my lowest post, which was that one right there. Now, typically, I don't like really high eave heights because rain blows underneath, sun, all that stuff, but because the ground is very uneven here, over a foot change from one corner to the next, I'm losing a lot of barn space up top right here where we're gonna have camper and other equipment. So it makes sense to have, we've got about a 12-foot eave height out here, and we're at about 11 foot or a little less back here. But you can adjust yours accordingly. 10 to 12 feet's common, or you can order longer poles with these kits. You can order these kits any way you want. 20-foot poles, 8x8s, 10x10s, whatever the heck you want. And you can get a much higher eave height, say if you had a big fifth wheel or something that was really tall, semi, anything like that. All right, so again, once again, having the right equipment is what makes this process go so smooth. So they're gonna be putting my header up here. You can get these kits with or without a header, but I really like the spacing. I like to have one section open for putting big stuff in and out or swinging a trailer through. I don't think I'll ever own another pole barn without a header. So they're gonna use a bucket truck right here to boom up these trusses and headers and install all this. So as you can see, the trusses come in two parts and they bolt them together right here in the center. All hardware is provided, and then here's your brace that goes in the middle to help with deflection of trusses in or out. Okay, so if you take a look on this end, this is on both sides. You can see there's already a welded in piece here that sits on top of the post, and you do 3 through bolts right here up through the top side of these posts now that they are cut off nice and flush. All right, now speaking of the through bolts, The very first pole barn kit that I ever bought, which was from a different company, well, it just used cheap lag bolts. You need to look at all this stuff whenever you're pricing out these barn kits. Whereas what Backwoods includes is through bolts. This is a much stronger connection right here. It goes all the way through the post. This is what you want to see. This is going to be a lot stronger than a lag bolt connection.
Start easing down.
Well, it doesn't get much easier than that for setting one of these trusses. That boom truck is the ticket. And as y'all can see, he's got the post perfectly spaced. I mean, that truss just slid right in between both of them. It's not uncommon though to have to pull some trusses together because boards do warp and move. Speaking of that, you can take come-alongs or big trucker ratchet straps and things like that. So if your posts need to be pulled in this way or this way, you can actually wrap something around a big ratchet strap, again, cable, come along, cheap tools, and put them back together in order to fit your trusses and purlins and stuff together whenever it comes time to do that. All right, so now these guys are putting in what's called your purlins. This is your support lumber that ties your trusses together and ultimately what you're screwing your tin to. And I like what Tyler did here. He's just taken some of our purlins and he went ahead and pulled these posts together to exactly the 12-foot spacing, screwed those in temporarily, so everything's exactly 12 foot apart. Now, once he screws the majority of these purlins in, everything's kind of held right where it needs to be, and then he can take these off and put them up there, since that's ultimately what they're designed to do. But I like how he's taking extra steps to make sure everything is nice and perfect. So you'll see these kits come with long purlins and short purlins. That's because it allows for, you know, an 18 to 24 inch overhang down here, which they're probably going to be doing some trimming off here as well. I'm not sure the exact spacing. Not uncommon for it to be 18 inches. And then you'll have shorter purlins that runs in between all these interior trusses and then will hang off the end down there as well. So even though this is a 30 by 48 barn post spacing wise, you get further additional overhang off the back, off the sides as well. And what they've done here is screwed a couple of these 2x6s together, anchored into the ground, and got that truss perfectly straight. You want to do that until you're done tying them all together, because them trusses up there will be doing this right here. All right, I'm gonna throw this thing in fast forward since that's a bunch of repetitious work right there. All right, y'all, and just like that, we are complete. Those guys literally put this up in a day and a half. I know I've said it a lot, but having the right equipment makes all the difference in the world. So let's take a quick peek now that it's complete and talk about some future plans we got going on here. So I can't remember if I mentioned this is 30 wide by 48 long. So this gives you a good general idea right here how this looks. I really like this trimmed out metal on the end here. That looks good. Never had that on one of my barns before. Gives it a good finishing touch. We're nice and wide open. I can actually come pulling in off the road and pull through this way if I want. Loving the header, y'all. I highly recommend if y'all do one of these barn kits, to do at least one open bay like this. Look at how much room. I have 24 feet that I can just pull big wide stuff in here. Again, I can loop through. That is absolutely worth having. So now you can get a good look at the purlins up top, 2x6 purlins, 24 inch on center. And out here toward the edge, they have two with really tight spacing. And in order to meet that 140 mile an hour wind load, which you probably can't see from the ground, is your screw pattern. There is a tremendous amount of screws up there, but the one thing that I'm liking and that you need to do is a screw on each side of every rib on the leading edge of the tin. And then you can maybe see all the screws that go all the way up to the top. So the reason that's important, you want more screws on the leading edge of the tin because that's the first place it's gonna lift typically, especially on a home when wind's hitting a wall and going up. That's where the tin's gonna try to lift with the highest amount of winds. So everything looks screwed off really good. I'm happy with what I'm seeing. All right, y'all, this is exciting. We have us a tremendous amount of storage over here. We can put our camper underneath now, tractors, equipment, and more importantly, now we have space to start bringing in all of our building materials. This big opening is gonna be nice for that. I'll be getting a lot of 16-foot lumber and stuff in for the house build. I can just have whoever brings it in, offload it from their truck, or I can with a tractor. We can bring it right in here, get it out of the weather, and I can come out here and work on rainy days and other stuff as well. This is going to be great. All right, y'all, huge shout out to Tyler and his crew. They gave me nothing for promoting them. I'm doing it because they do excellent work. I love seeing a young crew like that getting out here and busting it and really making a name for themselves. That's awesome. If you want to support them, I'll put their little Facebook link and whatever other links I have down in the description. They service North Florida, South Georgia if you're looking to get one of these kits put up, and they buy their kits directly from Backwoods as well if you're wanting this style kit. And last but not least, a huge shout out and thank you to these guys right here, Backwoods Building and Truss. There's their number. I'll also put their information down in the description. Y'all, if you're looking just for the metal trusses, they offer just independent trusses as well as the barn kits. Speaking of that, I have y'all reach out to me all the time about where do you get these metal trusses? Well, that's where you get them right there. So if you want to get custom built trusses to whatever width you want, you can go wider than this, you can go narrower than this, you can do lean-tos, you can do headers, you can not do headers, whatever you want, they can probably build the kit for you. Huge thank you to Backwoods for sponsoring the channel. I have recommended them for years, long before they ever sponsored the channel. Been buying kits from them for years. So it's truly a blessing to have a good local American business like that supporting us. Thank you to all of you that's whenever supported them over the years as well. They absolutely deserve it. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this build. That's how it's done, my friends, from start to finish. We'll catch you on the next one.